Who doesn't want to enjoy the finer things the world can offer? Whether it's a luxury car, a mansion, or even maybe a super yacht, whatever your pick is, you probably realize that you will never reach those dreams with your current 9 to 5, especially as all the energy and time you spent will only end in your boss's pockets. Just ask Jeff Bezos.
It was incredible.
People like Jeff Bezos understands that being rich isn't about working your butts off. Instead, it's all about hiring others to work their butts off for you. But that's not enough. To ensure that you can pay for your newer dreams, you can't just have a one-off customer. You need the repeating customer, and you need a lot of them. Now you must be thinking, but Jeff Bezos' Amazon is such an extreme example. People only keep using his services because Amazon provides a wider selection of products than any existing business. To achieve that, we need a lot of money and even an IT department. Something us regular Joes don't have a lot of. And well, you're right, but let's look a bit further, shall we? This is the Earth. Inside it contains 7.9 billion people with 4,000 ethnicities spread out in 193 different countries, each with their own different law, cultures, and customs. However, by chance, they all share something in common, which is an organ called the brain. And by chance, this organ controls its host's actions. Whenever the body does something the brain deems essential for survival, such as eating, socializing, and of course hormonal action, the brain will reward the body with a happy drug called dopamine, a chemical that causes feeling of pleasure. And by chance, any host who had a dose of dopamine would do the things to regain that pleasure. Now let's say that there are certain chemicals that can trigger the brain's dopamine release. And by chance, when the user registers said chemicals to be the dopamine release button, the user would lean more on the chemicals instead of the brain preferred action. And that's not all. When the brain realizes the constant exposure of said chemical, it will reduce the dopamine release amount, leaving the user to take more chemicals dose to satisfy the cravings. Congratulations, now you have a repeating customer. Just to be clear, I am not suggesting for you to establish an illicit drug empire. After all, if you decide to go down that path, you'll be faced with a ton of problems. If you are caught distributing goods,
They put you in jail right away. No trial, no nothing.
Your employees spill your business secret,
Right to jail.
your customers start sharing your product on their social media,
Believe it or not, jail right away.
and most importantly, your competitors can be at your loved ones' doorsteps at any given moment. In today's fast world, we need a different product where we can get the same outcome: an escalating usage, exploiting the human sensory pleasure, commercially available, etc. But without all the negatives that come with distributing an illicit substance, we need a product where it's protected by the law and accepted by the common mass. Meet sugar. Okay, the introduction may be a little bit of dramatic, and unless you're living under a rock your whole life, you're probably already aware that sugar is bad. Associated with obesity, diabetes to decay, well, the list goes on and on. But how does sugar consumption create those problems? Sugar, when digested by the body, will eventually be broken down into glucose, a form of fuel for your brain, muscle, and the rest of the body to survive and operate. However, in order for those cells to take in the glucose, insulin is required to give the green light. But what if you consume too much sugar? Well, an unwanted domino effect will occur in the body. Firstly, your body is going to ignore insulin altogether, leaving glucose to freely roam the bloodstream and eventually damage the blood vessels. Damaged blood vessels will eventually be patched by the body, however, leading to a narrower blood vessels. When blood vessels got narrower, it will lead to high blood pressure, and high blood pressure will eventually lead to your
Say, hold up, wait a minute.
So sugar is bad.
No. Yeah, no. But what if you consume too much sugar? By this point, if you're asking me, so how much sugar is too much for me? Well, my answer will be, I don't know. You see, everybody's different, so
Google it.
In reality, if your culture have bread as your main diet source or maybe alcohol binge for your social gathering, you would have to thank sugar for it. In bread making, sugar is added to feed the yeast, the microbes responsible to make the bread, well, bread. When yeast consume the sugar, it will transform it into carbon dioxide, which will lead to that soft, fluffy texture often associated with bread. And depending on the added sugar quantity, not all of the sugar will be consumed by the yeast. Instead, some will undergo Maillard reaction, which, simply put, is that browning process that adds the lovely golden brown and sweetness on the bread's outer layer. If you're still not convinced that sugar has good, think about your favorite dessert, ice cream. Perhaps the least known sugar function is its role in lowering food's freezing point. Think about your first ice cream. It's not just tasty, is it? It also has that soft and silky texture that would melt in your mouth. That sensation is all from sugar. You see, when ice cream started to freeze, its ice crystal would separate from the cream base and eventually join together to make a solid mass. Imagine it as your everyday or normal ice cream, except now there's an ice cube outside of it. This is why sugar is added to prevent that from happening. When added, sugar will act as a barrier that prevents the ice crystal to join together, making the final product everyone's favorite icy dessert. The way it is now, at least in my opinion, sugar will be treated just like the wheel. It won't really be replaced, only readjusted. Realistically, even if the public preferences are skewing more and more towards healthier food choices, food companies are not just gonna yeet sugar out of the blue. In economics, food companies rely on the familiarity principle, a psychological phenomenon where the people develop preference to the things they're already familiar with. And since most people are already familiar with all sugary products, food scientists now have to use different formula but still end up with the same sweetness, pricing, and other sensory experience. Therefore, it's most likely that the changes will come in two forms. The first one is sugar reduction, a definite no-brainer. This type of adjustments only reduce the sugar amount to a certain percentage. The second form will be the addition of other functional ingredients. Since sugar holds multiple functions, it's most likely that food scientists would add the functional ingredients into the mix. These ingredients could vary from functioning as a sweetener, preservatives, thickener, color, and the list goes on and on. Knowing all this, would I stop eating products that contain sugar?
Of course not.
To quote the famous Rocky scene,
The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it.
therefore, is it really wrong to hold on that small treat in life? Now don't get me wrong, obesity and diabetes is a very real problem, and we should all try not to overindulge in sugar just to run away from reality. Instead, we should try to reframe the question to be, how can I still enjoy sugar in my life? Well, it's called moderation. Did you know that on the back of all food packaging, they actually put the quantity per serving? You're not really obligated to finish the whole package in one go. You're supposed to save it for later. And you can even share it with your friends or families, or even maybe get a smaller size next time. After all, serving size, it does matter. By this point in the video, I hope you guys had realized that sugar isn't necessarily bad. Quoting the philosopher and academician Paracelsus, I'm gonna butcher this, sola dosis facit venenum. Hello! If you're still watching until this part of the video, let me just be the first one to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you! This has been my passion project from the last couple of weeks. It started strong, but then my sanity just went. But alas, here we are. I really hope that you guys enjoy what I put together. If you do, please consider putting in what you like in the comment section down below. And if you don't, put it in as well, please. I need feedback. And yeah, that's it. Thank you, I guess, and see you in the next video. Ciao.